They brought us to this country as a labor force. We built a foundation and they hate us for it. They hate us for it. We built a foundation and they ain't pay us for it. They ain't pay us for it, but they gon' pay for it. Already prayed for it. Non-believers didn't pray for us. Non-believers didn't pray for us. We're black and we built a foundation. Stone by stone, generation to generation. Vultures said we had no culture. Them vultures got a Jay-Z poster. Them vultures got a lacy culture. Vultures eat what they didn't kill. Vultures sleep what they didn't build. They brought us to this country as a labor force. We built a foundation. They hate us for it. We built a foundation and they ain't pay us for it. They ain't pay for it, but they gon' pay for it. And we built a foundation, stone by stone, generation to generation. Vultures said we had no culture, and vultures got a Jay-Z poster. Them vultures got a lacy poster.
Yes, I'm looking at, the content I was supposed to do got kind of backed up because I also respond to new information, on breaking or, just in news, like 19Zs and people like that. I respond to stuff like that as well. So I kind of shelved some stuff that I had in the making, right? You got to talk about things in season, time for everything. So, but there was a time this was in season, but everybody was talking about it. And sometimes, you don't want to be, sometimes you want to be the first, one of the first to do it, or you want to do it when it's cooled down. So it's totally cooled down, but I got some fire to drop on this clown right here. I didn't forget about him. So first things first, okay? First things first. Where's the video? Okay, is that the video right there? Okay, cool. That's the video right there. Okay, so I found the video. I hate when I be all over the place. Okay, here we are. All right, so culture. Okay, so here is the video. It should be over here somewhere. Oh, there. Okay, here we are. Okay, let me tag the video with my Cash App just in case somebody play my video over. They'll be forced to share my Cash App. Yeah, dig. This is like my watermark right here. You feel me? Hold on. There you go. All right. So if anybody share my video, they'll be sharing my Cash App. You dig? Bang. I don't like that color. Hold on. It don't stand out. That background. Hmm. All right. Let me go black. Let's see what that black do. All right, whatever. All right, okay. So let's get started. Talking point number 1. Hold on. Talking point number 1. Shit. Talking point number 1. Here we are. So it should be around the 321. Yo, Zoom be having tools in your way, right? Like out of all places, why would it be right there? So around right here.
Asia, Europe, Africa. And so and now, of course, I live in the United States of America. So I have a link. It seems to be the only bridge who can compare what I know from where I came from and then seeing people that we're taking from that place now. So I can look at the two and be able to spell out the similarities and what the root cause of some of the problems are.
The first topic I want to get into is, how do you define culture? And under your definition, do Black Americans have a unique culture? Let me start here with Frank.
Okay, so right there, that phraseology in the question was horrible. Okay, because you asked him, how does he define culture? So you allow him to come up with his own made up definition. And then you said, do Black Americans fit in that definition? So therefore he could say no. Like there's no debate there. Like no, you got to ask him flat out, do Black Americans have culture? And then, you let them ask that question, just yes or no for now. We'll let you elaborate, but right there, then see, you got to phrase the question, frame it better. Get them to yes or no. Okay, so what's the definition of culture? Don't ask him his definition, because anybody can make up some bullshit. Revenue got a whole bunch of personal definitions for everything. You don't ask them their personal definition. You can't argue somebody's personal definition. You argue the standard definition, right? When we talk about racism or economics or war, you don't ask people what's their personal definition of these things. We agree to the definition. Words are defined. There's a dictionary. Then we talk about what our opinion is based on the definition. Right. So that right there, the way to let him, frame it, like they kind of like gave him an alley-oop right here. But I know that he believed this is the definition, right?
Well, I'm glad you used the word unique culture. So yes, I'm sure you all saw the episode, that got everybody on my case, except this gentleman who was the only one brave enough to say, well, look, before I cut him into pieces, let me give him a chance to come into the studio and explain, to the audience. Yeah. So it's interesting. People say, oh, you're from Benin. And I'll say, yes. And they say, what's Benin culture like? And then I freeze. Because there's nothing like a Benin culture. Or if you're from Ghana, or if you're from Nigeria, Sierra Leone, Liberia, there is no such thing. But if you say, oh, you are Yoruba, he said, yes. What is Yoruba culture like? Then he or she is able to start to talk about it. So there are similarities which I'm going to really explain, and you can see it. So I'm first going to ask, he's been on my show. He's seen my thing. I do not put together that show, which I fund from my own pocket because I just want to say things to make people angry. No, it's because I really care. And sometimes I get frustrated about what I have seen from the continent where I come from and what I see here about my great-great-great-grandfathers, uncles, sisters who were taken away. So African Americans would say, well, you're not one uncle. Yes, I know, but I'm walking past my cousin, my nieces every day. So what is in my head is what is in their head. And what I'm explaining is something that they must listen to when I say there is no such thing as African American culture. They're like, what do you mean? Well, culture for me is not dance, food, clothing. Those are not cultures. Culture is a worldview. The worldview is what drives people.
All right, right there.
Stop the cap.
All right, family. He's redefining culture in a hyper restrictive way, right? He's ignoring sociology definitions. He's ignoring anthropology definitions, right? So what he's saying doesn't line up with academia. He's making up. This is literally called babble. This is babble. He's giving you his personal explanation on how he sees culture being defined. All right. So no, culture is language. Culture is food. Culture is music. Culture is customs. Culture is shared history, and culture is also social norms. So we're not gonna let him sit here and make up. If you ask him his personal definition, of course he's going to purposely leave out things that we do that's culture, and he's going to act like that's not culture, and he's going to now just point culture to things that Africans do, like click and pop, like dog meat. You did consume dog meat. Like we don't do that, but that's culture. Yeah, all right. He's gonna talk about scamming. He's gonna talk about Orzoro festivals. He's gonna talk about things that's only done in a shitty place. At a shitty place. Pooping in the streets. Yeah, I guess we got culture. If culture is pooping in the streets, eating monkey brains, dog meat, letting cows pee on your face. Yeah, if that's culture, you're right. We don't have culture, but that's not culture. Okay, AAVE is a recognized linguistic system. AAVE, you could say, or you could say BAVE, which is Black American Vernacular English, right? Then we got cuisines. We have soul food, barbecue traditions. That's culture, regardless of what this tether would say. We have music. Music is culture. We got blues, jazz, hip hop, rap, gospel, things like that, music. We got social rituals like cookouts, church traditions, HBCU culture, all that type of stuff. You dig? And then our shared historical identity, which is slavery, Jim Crow, civil rights, just to say, for that. So he's not going to prove that we don't have culture, right? He's not going to. I'm a spoiler. He's not going to do. He's not going to do that. What he's going to do is redefine culture and then say he's going to redefine culture to just what primitive people do in Africa and say, okay, FBAs, do you do these things? We're going to say, hell no. We don't let cows pee on their head. We don't eat monkey brains, dog meat. No, we don't do Ozoro grape festivals. Well, unfortunately, FBAs, that's culture. Yeah, sure. So that's the problem there.
Relationship to wealth, to money, to community, to marriage, to family. It's the worldview they have. That's the foundation of a culture. And number two, there is no possibility for you to have a culture without having a language. So if you read most of the books written by brilliant African Americans, the first thing you see, the headline is, the traumatic thing about slavery is not merely changing your environment. The traumatic thing about slavery is not merely asking you to work.
You can't have culture without language. I mean, family, you can't be more stupid than that. I mean, he just making stuff up. Many cultures have shared languages, right? Shared languages. I mean, people do it. It's still a culture. So, for example, you got the Americans, you got British, you got Australians. They got the same language, but they got different cultures. Latin America, Spanish, but distinct cultures. So language doesn't equate to culture. No, it's one component, right? Language is one component. It is not a requirement, right? So now if language actually equals culture, then America, Canada, and England will be all the same culture, which is obviously false. And Nigeria, because they speak English, right? So they will be part of the one culture with America, Canada, England, which is English, which is stupid. This is why, we just ignore tethers, man. They just really so irrelevant.
Hours. The Russians had hard labor camps in Siberia. Many countries, Japanese had it, where people work and they die. The traumatic thing about slavery is one thing only, which everyone has written about. They took our language away. They took our culture away. They took our history and religion away. That is a traumatic thing about being a slave. Now, if they took those things away, how and when were they recovered?
Yeah, this dude is stupid, yeah. This is stupid tether.
So I met a gentleman. I was attending a conference in Singapore, and I met this gentleman who was...
Hey, bro, we don't care about no damn tethers you met at Singapore, all right? You're talking to us, man. All right, let me see. What else? Okay, he talked about the one worldview. Nah, just a bunch of stupid babble. he said, well, culture must be a unified worldview. That's how he defines it. He don't look at it as food, music, and things like that. Okay, so he's obviously confusing national ideology with culture. Cultures are not monolithic. That also applies to Africa. So Yoruba, Igbo, Hausa, right? They're not a monolith. What about when you look at the U.S., you have Southern Black culture, and yeah, we're American, and you got Southern white culture. They're not the same. Culture can exist. It can definitely exist um, without a single unified worldview. Like the dude just be making up things. No culture on earth is 100% unified. Stupid. So by his logic, nobody has culture because nobody culture is 100% unified. And he says it's a unified worldview. So he's going to talk about mute. So now he again, all he does, which is weak, he just look at what we do and what's our culture, and he shoots it down as though it's not culture. I mean, like there's nothing, you know, like that's nothing. All right. So he speaks about. Oh shoot, hold on. So I want to get to where he talks about food, how food is in culture. Stupid tether, man. Can't do anything with these tethers, man. Hmm. Okay, so we have let's see. I think I over here somewhere. Right over here. Okay, that might be good.
So African Americans would say, well, you're not one local. Yes, I know, but I'm walking past my cousin, my nieces every day.
He's further up. I don't remember now. Around here somewhere. Come on. Right here.
I came from a place where, as a young boy, I was given a worldview, and it guided me everywhere I went. So when you meet me outside my culture, you can tell from my behavior, he must come from a culture that believes in.
Let's go around here.
I came from a place where, as a young boy, I was given a worldview, and it guided me everywhere I went.
Yeah, keep skipping.
So when you meet me,
shoot, what? Now just go with
it. Outside my culture, you can tell from my behavior, he must come from a culture that believes in XYZ.
Nah, I got it. I got it.
Everything we do. We took a construction worker's boot and made it the hottest item for the past 40 years because everybody finds a way to profit off of what we create and then demonize us for creating it.
Life
and
with
then
this super chat, 1999, FBA over everything, 100%, man. Priest, and thanks for the super chat. The lineage love is in the building. We got it does hurt my feelings or what any foreigner thinks. It doesn't hurt my okay. It's all conjecture based on hatred and grief. Yeah, I agree with you there. These people fail to realize black is the ethnicity like Yoruba is in Nigeria. Yeah. And some people don't know really because they're so focused on trying to be us, and others kind of can get it. Like I know this clown, not him. I'm talking about Frank Fraud Zanu. I know Zanu. I know he could kind of get it, right? So some people kind of get it, but they just act stupid, and other folks genuinely don't know because they're so busy trying to be us. That's why over here, you see, when they call in, I had two guys, one for sure. Like, in what sense are they black? Oh no, wouldn't even calm down, wouldn't have a conversation. Yeah, once these folks show they're not trying to have a conversation with me, I kick them off. And the Garvey guy, I tried. I didn't want to kick him off. Like, Their content, why do I want to kick them off? I don't benefit. I'm a content creator. I would love to have a segment with them for like 15, 20 minutes, me just cooking them. I don't want to kick them off in 5 minutes. But once I see where it's going, I'm good, right? Because one of my resolutions is to not to argue with when I know it ain't going nowhere. Go with my best judgment. You know, again, I could debate people who disagree, but it has to be, we got to be able to be honest and answer questions, right? But you ain't gonna run around the point. We're not doing that.
Label us criminals, uneducated, unwilling, we don't care, but they don't talk about all the systemic things that have been set up and profited by people who want to keep us in a certain box. That doesn't mean we can't escape that box, but to act like we were not put under duress for what we had to put together as a culture when everybody else got to inherit it. And that includes Haitians, Jamaicans, everybody else got to be left alone so that they could develop. We didn't have that. And to this day, I have yet to meet one African, one Jamaican, one Caribbean, one Black person anywhere who comes into this country and has automatically ingrained in them before they start going, my country, 'tis of thee, sweet land of liberty, of thee I sing, that they're afraid when the red and blue lights come on behind them when they're pulled over. And I get it, and I'm the son, brother, and nephew of cops. That's why I say, yes, we have a culture, but of course we don't have a language. But let's not be disingenuous and act like it doesn't matter, because it does. Because as foundational Black American goes, so goes everybody else.
Yeah, that's a lot of booty scratchers like to throw the language thing there. Like, dude, we speak English, my guy. You dig? We don't. You speak African clicks and pops. Okay, cool. You speak a disgusting sounding language. Yeah, no, that's not a language. You want to be, that's not a language to me. Yeah, that ain't a language, my guy. How do you learn that? You dig? How do you say cat in that language? Like, stop, man. Like, we can be really strict and hold y'all to y'all bullshit. That's not a language. We were calling it one to be, sensitive, but listen, don't start poking the bear, because we can really get on those clicks and pops. That's not a language. You got no writing system. The white man had to make up some vowels for you to put it to make words out of your bullshit in English, by the way. How you speak clicks and pops, but we can read your language in English? Doesn't make any sense, huh?
Society.
So Frank, let me ask you a question. If slavery erased our Black Americans' culture, what do you call what we built after?
Clear Collector said we have tutneys, right? Tutneys.
Well, you have to give me an example of what you mean by what we build. What are you referring to?
You tied culture back to African and something that you inherit, but you said that got erased during slavery. But we built something. Clearly, Black Americans have built throughout slavery and the culture that we have currently.
What I'm asking is, give me an example so I'll be able to respond to that particular thing.
Well, like things like gospel is something that we built after slavery.
Songs and music,
the foods that we eat, that we consume.
Sure, songs and music exist in every society.
Is that not a part of culture?
No. Let me.
Family, whatever we do, he's going to say it's not part of culture, right? And at some point, they had to catch on to that and just start flaming them, like they do to women. When women come on there and start acting a fool, they we stop and we start flaming. At some point, you got to realize, okay, this guy's not going to be genuine. Or she's not going to be genuine. All right, two things: either kick him off or flame him. Okay, and he should have been either kicked off or flamed. He said music, food, and those things are not culture. That literally contradicts every anthropological framework. He's just making stuff up. And he's going to make it up to where nothing fits foundational Black Americans. Music is a cultural expression. That's a fact. Food is a cultural tradition. Facts. Dance is a cultural communication. These are literally core opponents of culture. Now, if food and music aren't culture, then no culture on earth exists. It keeps coming back down. When he's saying, well, we don't do it, it's not culture, then nobody got culture. Nobody got culture except for some clicks and pops. Like, just say, yo, and just say Africans got culture, nobody else. Because that's what that other Frankenstein dude pretty much said. Because even Dr. Rushpin called him out. Like, oh, all right, bro, you tripping. Yeah, but these guys are just disrespectful and OD, all right, with their rhetoric. Okay, here this guy. It's triggering. Watch this.
May come to that. And first, let me make a little response to David's assertion that we were not allowed. So, in Benin or Ghana or Nigeria, you pick any of the 54 countries in Africa, right? If you had gone into a Yoruba tribe, which is now part of Nigeria, they would speak Yoruba. Now, when we were put together forcefully as countries, today, my nieces and nephews can't even speak my language properly. And the French and English, they can't even speak it properly. Because in one classroom, you have 36 kids who come from different tribes in that classroom. So they can only use English or French or Spanish or Portuguese to teach this myriad of tribes now who don't speak their language anymore. African Americans were not prevented from speaking their language. When the ship arrived, it was...
He said, well, he mean Black Americans. Black Americans, we were not prevented from speaking our language. I mean, goddamn, you could just watch Roots and like he's not even trying to be factually correct. That's complete hogwash. Hey, man, like I said, you could just watch Roots and you could see what happened with that. Yo, we were actually punished for speaking if we try to speak another language other than English, Tutnese or anything. You dig? We were intentionally mixed to prevent from communication. I think he spoke to that. And obviously we were forced into English under extreme threats of violence and violence. Under extreme duress, we were forced to speak English. What are you talking about, man? That is documented in slave codes and historical records. Right? So we didn't just lose our language full. It was systematically really beaten out of us. Really. What's your name, boy? Like that type of Toby stuff. All right.
One from this tribe, that tribe, that tribe, that tribe. So automatically you can speak to each other. And when you don't speak your language for a while, like I've been outside Africa now, going 40 years. If I meet any of my uncles...
Yeah, my man said he's on the run for 40 years. He's on the run from Africa for 40 years. Yo, what's up? Why they don't want to go back? And then we don't got culture. Bro, what is so culture of being born and raised somewhere and don't have no desire to live there again? That's culture?
And speak to each other. And when you don't speak your language for a while, like I've been outside Africa now, going 40 years. If I meet any of my uncles and I start to try to speak my language, I'm interfered by English constantly. And I can't finish it. I can't make a coherent sentence in my own language. Because at school, you could not use that language because you are now a bucket of different languages. The same thing happened here. You were brought as a shipload of different languages. That is why Creole and Patois were created. So you use the only word you can understand, a little bit of the colonizer or whoever is controlling you, and try to speak to someone who comes from Senegal. You don't know what he speaks. So over time, it becomes this hodgepodge of a language called Creole or Patois. In Sierra Leone, they have it. In Liberia, they have it. In Nigeria, they have the pidgin English because they can't speak to each other. So nobody prevented you. All you need is to not to use your language because there is no one there to speak to, and the next generation, it's gone. The Jews, however, it was
This guy is just stupid.
Jews. They took them as Jews. Even though they went from country to country to country, they were lucky enough to keep talking to each other because they can understand each other. So they were able to retain them.
That's a false equivalence, man. We just said, I just told you guys that we were, the language was beaten into us. The language was not beaten to. Matter of fact, I think we're like some of the only people to ever get our language stripped from us, where we had, or forced on us, where we had to speak another language through violence and death. I think we're the only people that went through that. If there was another one, sure. But for the most part, this is a rare occurrence that we went through. And he's trying to act like this happens everywhere. The people he naming, this did not happen to them. They were not beaten, physically harmed to take on a new language.
The language. This is my starting point. It happened to us on the continent. So don't be fooled. You hear countries like Nigeria, Ghana. If you ask 5 Ghanaians, one from the Ashanti, one from the Ewe, the Ga, the Akwamu, and the northern region, and ask them, are you Ghanaians? Yes, we are Ghanaians. Look at our passport. Ask them, what is Ghanaian culture? And they'll start looking at each other. There is no such thing. Ask them, what do you speak in Ghana? They'll start looking at each other. Ask them, what is the Ghanaian sense of value? There's no such thing.
Before this tether go too far, again, that's a false equivalence. I talked about that earlier. That's one term you guys got to embed in your head. That's a false equivalence. Because Ghana, they have a shared nationality, right? They have a shared national identity. They have shared institutions. They have shared traditions layered over ethnic ones, my guy. And guess what? That's the same with us over here in Black America. We have a distinct ethnogenesis that was formed under some conditions. Okay? So he's basically confusing not uniform with non-existent. Really. Like, that is no shot. All right, hold on. Okay. Then he said we ain't got neighborhoods. You know what I mean? We only got no, I'm saying, he said we don't have communities. We only have neighborhoods. And he oh my God. That's semantic wordplay. That's plebiscite babble. That's jail talk. Okay. Black communities, you know, they obviously exist, right? Nobody gonna deny that. Okay. So again, what we usually deal with in our societies, our cities, churches, cultural networks, HBCUs, social organizations, and whatever else is out there. All right. So he's doing the same thing we're doing all the time. He redefines a word and then exclude them. He give it a bad definition and then say, hey, throw it out. Throw out the evidence you have against me. That's corny, man. So anyway, changing the label doesn't erase the reality. Okay, anyway, we're gonna skip past a little bit.
How do you guys marry in Ghana? There is no such thing. But you say you're Ghanaians. So what happened to us happened here. And when I arrived here, I understood it. When I went to
Yeah, he's trying to compare us to Ghana still. Dude, they have an active shooter in the mall with a gun or anywhere. That's not the case. He's walking around the mall with a gun.
Haiti, I was like, whoa. When I went to Jamaica, the same thing. So when I said I was only speaking here, so I said African Americans, I would have said the same thing about my own countries in the continent. We have no culture.
Yeah, but from that video, what I got from it is you kind of you put Haitians on a pedestal.
I didn't. No, let me correct you.
When in comparison to Black Americans, you said Haitians, they have a culture. Like you said that out your mouth.
I said. So it was a long video about Haiti.
Mm-hmm.
And during that conversation, I began to talk about why Haitians can fix Haiti. Because you don't have Haitians. You have just a country forcefully imposed upon you a citizenship, but you are from different places in Africa. But right now, if you go somewhere, you would speak Creole. And somebody would say, oh, that is Haitian. That's what I meant. Not putting them on any pedestal.
So they have a language.
They created one.
So you want to say,
and it's not even useful in any way because it's not an international language.
So they took French and made Creole, right? Is what you're saying.
Spanish, French, and then over 200 African tribal languages into one.
But Americans would say that they took English and made their own language as well.
And what is that?
I mean, it's a broken version of English, but it's still something that we could speak to that's specifically to us.
What language is that?
I mean, it's English.
He's talking about AAVE, African American Vernacular English. The same way, for example,
I think I've heard. Yes, when I came to this country in 1994, I had a debate on my campus about Ebonics.
Right.
Now,
same thing.
Yeah, and somebody corrected me. I think it was my professor said, no, if you say Ebonics, there is no one collective Ebonics.
Correct.
You have to go into pockets. If the person is from the north, the south, the central, they created their own style around it. So I understand that part. That didn't even qualify as a subculture. So let me give you, Jamaicans don't have a culture. When you say the country Jamaica, no, that is not identifiable as a culture. But the Rastafarians have a culture. Now, let me explain what I mean by worldview. The Rastafarians' worldview is that men were put on earth to take care of nature. Okay, that wealth you have to create more than consume. So they live a frugal life. So politically, they are pacifists. They will never go to war. Socially, they are communal and what we call Epicurean. They believe getting high, eat some food, and have deep conversation is what life is about. And then religiously, they are Rastafarians. Hippies are the Western version of a Rastafarians. They also had a worldview. And that dictated their relationship with wealth. The hippies believe that humans were put on earth to create and consume, and that living in community and being frugal as to wearing the most inexpensive clothing and using things together is what life is all about. So it guided how you see them dress, where they shop from, why they marry, on and on and on. That's what I mean by any society, if you want to understand them, it's the worldview. The Jews believe that they were put on earth as God's chosen people.
All right, so he gonna ramble for a little more. Let me see where I timestamp this. Give me a second, family. Where we at? Okay. Just let it. I'm a tether and I say so. That's a lot of this is. Okay. Uh-oh. Warning, warning, warning. Triggering. Warning. Let's see. On the dot right around here. Right, here we go. Okay.
The Jews went into slavery, the globe, 4,000 years in the diaspora. In Egypt, in Baghdad, which was formerly Babylon, when they were in Iron Race, Jews are inferior. It's what they said over and again to German kids. When they arrived in America, Sammy Davis had a on the bus in the driver told him to get to the back of the bus. He said, no, you don't understand. I'm a Jew. He's been fucking out to rent or buy a home in Greenwich, in Westport, in Darien. There's a story to build the first golf course when he became aware that Jews and blacks were not allowed to play in golf courses. Jews had it tough in this country through redlining, where they were not allowed to set up businesses, so they were forced
why
to
keep
convert and start loaning to themselves from within. It didn't happen to them
to being
4,000 years,
enslaved? I
longer than
noticed
we
that
were
when you
enslaved
first
or
started talking,
colonization.
and I'm seeing them still do it.
Question you need to ask is, if they did all these things against us, why did it work? Leave after slavery, not because there was no place to go to. That. Ask yourself, the Ashantis knew that they were the most powerful tribe in Ghana, followed by the Airways, the Gans, the Twees, Akwamus, everybody. They knew that they didn't form the country Ghana, that they were forced, okay?
All right, anyway, he just rambling. What he just did right there is worse than a false equivalent, right? He's doing a false comparison fallacy, right? So different groups, just because we're different groups don't mean we got the same conditions. Different groups can have different conditions. And we had different conditions than the South Africans dealing with apartheid. And we had different conditions with Jewish people. You know, people went through issues with their enslavers and colonizers, but that don't mean they're the same. That don't mean we're comparable. For example, FBAs in this country, Foundational Black Americans, we face chattel slavery, which is hereditary, right? And is race-based. It was total culture erasure, right? It was legal apartheid, Jim Crow, similar to what happened in South Africa, and an ongoing systemic targeting, systemic targeting, right? But the Jews and the Koreans and et cetera, the people he's naming, these people, first of all, different timelines, different structures, and they retained identity continuity. So he's comparing completely different systems of oppression like they're all identical. No, man. All right. You know, no, that doesn't work. That doesn't work like that. Hold on. Hold on. Damn, yeah, I cannot. Wait. Okay, I see. Shadows, 2 Limelight, 9.99 the super chat for the culture. Thank you, man. Appreciate it very much. See me, I'm back at it like a crack at it. Like I really got a lot of content. People been emailing me stuff to look at, sending me on Facebook, TikTok. So it's a lot. Thank you guys. And I got I got a stock of content for weeks and days. I haven't been touching it because, like I said, I haven't been touching my own stuff because we've been getting breaking news like 19 keys over and over again. You dig? Hold on. All right, hold on one second. I'm gonna skip to when they were talking about building America. Let me see. Right here. We built everything right over here.
Stop it. How can one race on earth have the same experience and it's not going away?
I agree with you, right? To a certain degree,
So to your question, we build it so we won't live it. You're lying to yourself. What did you build in America? Name one thing you built. You were in the 6 states in the South farms because of your ability. They took them to Jamaica because of plantation. They took them to Haiti.
All right, let's talk about what we built. I mean, come on, man. Like, this is stupid stuff, right? And the simple fact that we got to sit here and say, we got culture. We built things. Like, yeah. Like, that's like us saying Ethiopians don't eat at all. They're always starving. Really? You guys eat? What do you eat? What do you eat? You don't eat food. What do you eat? Like, it's and now they got to waste time sitting there trying to prove to us, no, we do eat food. Look, we eat this. Like, it's stupid. It's petty. We were enslaved labor, and you're telling us we didn't build anything. We were the labor force, my guy. What didn't we build? We built the agricultural economy, right? We built the infrastructure. The infrastructure, what makes us foundational. What about the wealth foundations of the U.S.? We built the economy, the most important things. So he wants to deny our contributions to America, like most tethers, while standing inside what we built. So he's in our house that we built and pretending that he's not in our house that we built. All right. So the video is triggering. It pissed me off watching this. And I think that now I remember why I never did a video on this. Because it just pisses you off. Like we really gotta sit here and argue. We were at one point the sole labor force. That means we were late working, building, and we gotta tell you what we built. So we're just laboring, what? Just kicking rocks around and just throwing them at each other, and like we didn't. I mean, it's triggering, family. It's triggering. So, the whole time he was there on that couch, he was using redefinition fallacy. He was changing what culture means to his own personal definition. False comparisons, comparing unequal histories, right? Erasure of history, downplaying slavery's impact, and blame shifting, right? He's moving responsibility from systems to people, which is a conservative talking point. All right. When you give systemic racism a pass and you start saying it's our culture, we got to have a better culture, we got to raise our kids. When you start talking like that, those are conservative talking points. His entire argument only works if you are allowed to redefine culture so narrowly that we don't qualify. Black Americans, we just don't qualify. That's what he did. And it's kind of their fault, the Daily Rapper crew, by asking him, how does he personally define culture and do we fit in? So we Black Americans, we clearly have a culture. It's laughable to say we don't. So all he does is move the goalposts and kept moving. Oh, no, no. Like, again, everything we do in America, you guys use money to buy food. That's not culture. You got, like, whatever it is going to be no. Whatever we do is no. It don't matter what you say to them, is no. All right. The barbershop, like having conversations, having our dearest conversations in the barbershop, brainstorming in the barbershop while people get a haircut and watch movies. You dig? Debate sports and politics. And that's not culture. Like I said, it's never going to be culture unless it's something done in Africa. So he moved the goalpost to, you got to be doing it in Africa to be culture. You got to be basically an African, homeborn African, to have any culture. So no, we did not lose culture. Black Americans, we did not lose culture. We created a new one under the most extreme conditions in human history. Fraud Zanu. Okay, so now that's not absence of culture, my guy. My boy, that's one of the strongest examples of culture on earth. We are the culture. We're the culture of cultures. People who got their own culture, they have assimilated to ours. People who never met us a day in their life are borrowing the way we dress, the way we wear our hair, our music, the way we talk, the way we dance. They incorporated our culture into their culture. So yeah, we ain't gonna let a tether sit here and disrespect us like that and say we ain't got no culture. So, but now I remember why I never did nothing to him, because it was triggering. Like, it was just like, dude, come on, you're not even like giving like strong arguments, bro. You're just denying history. Oh, Black Americans, nobody forced you not to speak your language. Really? You didn't watch Roots, man. Come on, I'm not doing that with you. Anyway, let's get him up out of here. He said some other wild stuff, but again, so this is in the news. Let's tackle this right here and go to sleep.
Today we commemorate the victims of a staggering crime. Millions of people stolen from their families and communities in Africa.
Okay, language like that. When people talk about the transatlantic Atlantic African slave trade, and they use people been stolen, kidnapped, or taken or took, don't take them seriously. They're actually dangerous. So I ain't gonna play no more of that video. Just know that he's from the UN, and he started off by saying people been stolen out of Africa. And he's gonna frame it as like, yeah, the white team man. Look at this right here. Now, this is what I didn't see. We can watch this together. Haven't seen this one.
Hello, colleagues of the media, friends. Thank you for waiting and being patient for the vote to come through. I now want to call to the microphone the distinguished Foreign Minister of Ghana, Honorable Samuel Okudzeto Ablakwa. Minister.
Thank you. Well, thank you very much, our friends from the media. Good afternoon. Today, the international community has taken a significant, considerate, and historic step forward by adopting this landmark resolution declaring the trafficking of enslaved Africans and the racialized chattel enslavement of Africans as the gravest crime against humanity.
I'm talking on mute. I'm going to rewind that. Look at the language they're using.
With the adoption declaring the trafficking of
So I talked about this yesterday. Matter of fact, you know what? Let me get one of these guys to talk to us. Let me see if I can bait somebody in to coming in over here. I should have did something a little more lighter. Yeah. So like, if you want to bait one of these tethers over here, because if you speak too strong, like you know something, they're not going to come. Okay. Let me rephrase that to a nice way where they might pull up. Yeah, I'm gonna do it a nice way. Try to bait one of these guys over here. Okay, now listen to the language. Listen to how they keep saying African, African, African. These some slick bastards.
Forward by adopting this landmark resolution declaring the trafficking of enslaved Africans.
The trafficking of enslaved Africans. They don't want to say the slave trade. They don't want to say, they're going to look at the language. They're using language which don't show them being accountable, being the reason why the slave trade happened. They're trying to erase themselves out of history.
And the racialized chattel enslavement of Africans as the gravest.
The racialized chattel enslavement of Africans. So we are Africans too. So we are owed.
Crime against humanity. With the adoption of this resolution, Resolution A/80/L48, We have not simply passed a text, we have affirmed a truth. We have chosen remembrance over silence, dignity over erasure.
He said remembrance over silence. Yeah, these guys are dead. Hey yo, they can't even keep a straight face. But like he's barely smirking. Look at these people back here. And they are dead ass. Yeah, these folks have not reached out to us at all. Never tried, no way, shape, and form. If they really believed that they were old, they would have reached out to us. And I'm not just talking about leaders or people in authority or people in high positions that's out there front line. They will be talking to us on the regular in everyday chat rooms, everyday, spaces. They'll be talking to the grassroots. If they really believe this BS, they would have been talking to us because you want the grassroots are the momentum. So if you get that foundational Black American grassroots behind you, it strengthens your position big time. So if they really believe this, they would be talking to us. We know nothing about this. Like, we're like, how are you claiming your old reparations when you were part of the human trafficking?
And shared humanity over division. We have advanced the cause of justice, and we have done that so emphatically. Those who voted in favor, 123 member states of the United Nations. 52 abstained, and only 3 voted against. This is an emphatic victory for justice. And our ancestors, Africans.
Our ancestors, look what he's saying, Africans. I'm telling you, family, I believe all these agents that we talk about, all those Pan-Africans that's selling bullshit, the Air African shoes. They just got bad luck because out of nowhere, they almost had it in the bag, and out of nowhere, here comes ADOS talking about disaggregation, and out of nowhere, here comes FBA talking about delineation. I know they was like, yo, you can't be serious. This is why they hate the people who spearheaded those positions. They hate Tariq. They hate Yvette. That's all they do. They're in their titles all day long. ADOS, FBA, Tariq, Yvette. That's all they do. They hate them equally the same. It's not like they saying, hey, yo, man, FBA, man, they ain't got it right, man. I'm rolling with ADOS, man. They got it together. Nope, they don't do that. They hate both. Just talk to a Pan-African or Tether. They don't rock with either one. It ain't like they're saying, ADOS, man, they ain't right, man. They ain't got it, man. I'm rolling with FBA, man. They closer to the truth. They don't do that. They think both stances are garbage, ADOS and FBA. But he's going to get out here and help us get, well, I can't even say that. He's going to get out here and help himself to get a check. He thinks.
And all people of African descent are today honored that our humanity and our dignity have been restored. Let me, on behalf of the African group, express our profound appreciation to all member states who supported this resolution. We wish to thank those who engaged.
Yeah, this is definitely triggering.
In its consideration, in a spirit of dialogue, reflection, and good faith. We acknowledge that views differed during this process, and we note the positions taken by delegation.
So you've got a deaf, blind, dumb, backwards person speaking an African language, coming from the African country, came here to be a parasite.
That were not in a position to support the resolution at this time. The adoption of this text is not an arrival at a destination, but rather a major step in our ongoing journey and collective conversation for reparatory justice. We remain committed to continued engagement with all member states in the shared spirit of cooperation. Yesterday, His Excellency, the President of the Republic of Ghana, who initiated this landmark resolution, talked about the importance of language, how it shapes our understanding of the past and our vision for the future. Today, through this resolution, the world has spoken with clarity and truth. We have affirmed that the trafficking of...
He called us colored too. I missed that part because again, it's kind of hard to like listen to this stuff because it's so triggering. Like it's like the audacity of these guys to sit here and talk about reparations. It's like really missing me.
Of enslaved Africans and their racialized chattel enslavement is the gravest crime against humanity. A crime whose scale, structure, and enduring consequences demand recognition at the highest level of our shared global conscience so that we can move forward in healing and in preventing such a crime from ever happening again.
You were part of the crime. You were complicit. You're what they call snitching. Dude, you were caught. You were just like the white man were caught in the commission of the crime, my guy. Now you're trying to snitch to get a better deal. Actually, you're trying to snitch to be acquitted. And then somehow you want to hijack.
This resolution is not about apportioning blame across generations or nations. It is not about reopening old wounds.
I don't know what you're talking about, reopening old wounds. Well, you are right now talking about reparations and white man. You're reopening old wounds. The white man was chilling. Like, all right, he thought he got it off until you came with this BS.
It is about ensuring that those wounds are neither forgotten nor denied. It is about creating space for truth, for education, and for a more honest global conversation that allows us to move forward together with greater understanding. History, as we know, is rarely simple. It is layered, it is complex, and at times uncomfortable. This resolution does not deny that complexity. It does not ignore the many dimensions of historical experience. Rather, it recognizes that even within complexity, there are moments in history that stand apart, moments defined by their scale, their systemization, and their impact on humanity. To acknowledge this is not to diminish any other history. It is to deepen our collective moral awareness. What we have achieved today helps all of us in our renewed commitment to remembrance.
Family, so that I'm still confused on what they're arguing. Like, I know what they're saying, but it's like, what are you arguing? Who are you suing?
Future generations inherit truth, not silence, to education, so that history is taught with honesty and integrity, to dialogue, so that differences in perspective become opportunities for understanding, and to cooperation, so that we address the enduring legacies of history in ways that unite rather than divide. The resolution also opens the door for continued global engagement on reparatory justice, not as a narrow or transactional concept, but as a broader framework for healing, restoration, and partnership. It also calls for further actions within our respective states. We therefore urge every member state to consider carefully the actions it must take to ensure inclusive and good faith dialogue on reparatory justice. The work of justice does not end with remembrance. The racialized systems that adversely shaped our world must yield to a system that does not distinguish between our common humanity, and which seeks for the interests of all peoples in a fair, just, and equitable manner. Let me conclude with this reflection. We cannot change history, but we can change how we remember it. And in doing so, we can change what we carry forward. Today, the world has chosen to remember with purpose, justice, and equity. Let that purpose guide us toward a future that is more just, more inclusive, and more profoundly human. I would like to thank our negotiating team, staff of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, the staff of our mission in New York, in Geneva, and in Addis Ababa. And I would like to thank especially our President, His Excellency John Dramani Mahama, for his vision, his dynamism, his effectiveness, which the UN Secretary General acknowledged today in their bilateral engagement, and for his humanity. His guidance has been absolutely phenomenal in bringing us to this historic moment. Ghana, Africa, and all people of African descent, and indeed all people of the world with good conscience, will eternally be grateful to President Mahama for his leadership at this defining hour in global history. I thank you very much for your indulgence, and I shall now take your questions.
Those that voted against the resolution was the United States. Were you disappointed by that vote? And also, if you can comment on those that abstained, more than 50 nations. How do you feel about those? Thank you.
So I would like to comment on the reasons they gave. They sought to create the impression that the time for negotiations have been short. The President of Ghana served notice last year in September when he delivered his address at the 80th session of the General Assembly. Immediately thereafter, we put together a broad-based coalition, including experts, academics, researchers, historians from all regions of the world, and we commenced negotiations. In the history of the United Nations, this has been a resolution that has gone through so many rounds of consultations. And even the duration for this consultation, each consultation, the standard practice at the UN is that it takes 1.5 hours. We allocated 3 hours, twice the time, and had multiple rounds of negotiations. So there are some that to us, it is clear that even if we gave them 50 years, they would say that the time is not enough. But we can no longer wait. September, we will be commemorating 100 years since the last slavery was abolished. 100 years. And yet there has been no justice. A whole century. So we cannot keep waiting for those who do not want to reckon, who do not want to come to the table with urgency and with acknowledgement that this is a matter that can no longer be swept under the carpet. So we disagree with the notion that there was no time for negotiations. Secondly, the claim they have made that we are seeking to create a hierarchy of crimes. We have stated clearly that it is not about hierarchy. We are only speaking to a historical fact. Never in the history of mankind have we had such a systemic crime. We took over 3 centuries, more than 300 years, with its consequences still lingering onto this day, manifesting in racism, in structural inequality. So we are talking about the contextual framing of what has happened, not about ranking crimes. And we made that very clear. So we are clear in our minds that some are just deliberately stonewalling and introducing red herring. But what is fundamental, which nobody can deny, is that more than 12.5 million people were forcibly removed from the continent. More than 3 million people died, were tossed into the transatlantic ocean, which is a mass grave site. And in our country, Ghana, we are currently, UNESCO has certified that, the country with the highest number of slave forts and castles. We are living witnesses on a daily basis when we go into those castles and forts and we see the door of no return. We break down. My daughter Indiva, on an excursion only last week, broke down and asked me, "Daddy, what did we do wrong? And why has there been no justice?" I had no answers for my 14-year-old daughter. So we live with these experiences on a daily basis, and we live with the structural consequences. And that is what this is about. All those other matters about ranking, about time, about more space for negotiations, we believe that they are just red herrings, and it is not a demonstration of good faith so far as the pursuit of justice in this matter is concerned.
One of the key reasons raised by the United States for which reason they are abstaining is the lack of clarity on who is the recipient of the reparatory justice. What is your response to that?
That is surprising because we have, in this resolution, talked about frameworks which will put in place that will take care of the consequences. We all know that the consequences of the transatlantic slave trade has been the lack of opportunity, discrimination, the degradation of people of color. So we have said, let's have frameworks that will serve as endowment funds to support education, to support empowerment, to support skills training, capital for entrepreneurs, and all of that. And we have made clear that African leaders or Caribbean leaders are not looking for money. It goes against our conscience to seek to profit from this. We don't want any payments made to us directly. We are talking about courses to deal with the structural inequalities. And we are also talking about the return of artifacts to the continent. It's all in the resolution. There are thousands of artifacts from Egypt all the way to the Ashanti Kingdom in Ghana. Those artifacts should not be returned on piecemeal as and when those who are in custody of those artifacts are in a good mood. So we have outlined what must be done and to whom these redress should be addressed to. So again, it is totally wrong for a claim to be made that there is no clarity about who benefits from reparatory justice.
What?
Okay.
Congratulations on
Thank
the
you.
overwhelming victory in the General Assembly. I know you're busy, so I'll make it quick. What message does this resolution, this draft that has now been adopted, send to other people outside Africa right now that are fighting for reparatory justice?
This resolution sends a very clear message.
Yo, Donnie C. Williams, he funny. He said, they like, come back, nigga. Walk around the tree the other way for the tree of remembrance. Remember, you was here, nigga. This was you. This is where your ancestors were forced to stay in. Oh, no, I said your ancestors. Our ancestors were. Stop it.
Fighting for reparatory justice.
This resolution sends a very clear message that the international community would no longer tolerate impunity, that the international community stands for justice, that the international community and our multilateral system we have erected, no matter how long it takes, the day of reckoning will come. And so all of us as leaders should be mindful of our actions and our policies, that once we violate the rights of others,
I agree, Southern Breed. This is diabolically evil. You got to. I never watched it. This is new. This look. This just came out when I was live. This came out. This is the UN. Oh shit! I can't show it. I can show it, but I gotta drag it in. Look, this is 8 hours ago. You dig? So this is today. So when I was live getting off, I seen it. I said, "Oh, what is this?" I said, "Oh yeah." When I go live later on, cooking on Fraud Zanu, I'm gonna play this. So I'm gonna listen to it for the first time with you guys. This is what it is, man.
As we engage in impunity, in acts of injustice, the day of reckoning will come. To me, that is a very, very profound message that the UN is sending to the world today.
And look, they won't. I mean, that's just crazy. The white man and the African man coming together again to do business, and it's always to sell us out. So they're coming together 400 years later to try to resell us in reverse. So now the African man got the checkbook out and the white man like, we're going to sell them to you. Stop, man. We're not buying this. They refuse to talk to us about this. I wish a Ghanaian would call in his chat talking about their old some money for reparations. I would love to have this conversation with all these people, man. Any one of them. I would love to have this conversation with one of these guys to listen to how they are owed for selling us. They sold us. Yeah, but the white man, he got slick though, you see, because he benefited the most. So we're suing the white man because the trade looking back wasn't even. The white man ended up ruling the earth while the African man being the poorest, dumbest people on earth. So that wasn't a fair trade as we look back at it. We're reevaluating the benefits, right? So we were hoodwinked. We were duped. We want some of that money. You dig? We want some of that power. That got to be the argument. What else argument can they have?
Let me take the last one.
Stefano Caravaggio in New York. Did you have, in this process, did you have any contact with African American leaders here in this country, especially in Congress? Did you have any contact?
Yes, we did. I personally met with the Congressional Black Caucus. I met with the NAACP.
Yeah, this dude is naming a bunch of tether-ran organizations.
I met with the NAN of which is led by Reverend Al Sharpton, and I am delighted to note that following our meetings, they all publicly endorsed this draft resolution. The Congressional Black Caucus actually wrote to the U.S. ambassador here to make sure that he votes in favor of this resolution. I'm sure he's really in trouble with the Congressional Black Caucus. 62 congressmen.
Come on, man. I'm done. Okay, let's see what else they got in here. Slavery, we must turn memory into progress. A middle. I think this one I played that one yesterday. Okay, so this one I didn't play. I'm about to throw up.
Now give the floor to the Secretary General of the United Nations, His Excellency Antonio Guterres.
He full of shit. I want to hear this right here. What this white man got to say?
Madam President of the General Assembly.
Hey, listen, Africa, y'all not getting paid. I don't know I don't know who's going to pay you. Yeah, that part, and I don't know what for what. Like, what are you getting paid for? Who's paying you? I don't know, but.
Excellencies, today we reflect on a deep betrayal of human dignity, the abduction of millions of Africans, stolen from families and communities they would never see again.
Who did the stealing? They keep leading with that. Yo, listen, they sound just like these Pan-Africans that we talked to. They use the same disrespectful, deceptive language. Stolen. Why they keep doing the stolen part? You know, family, look. The stolen part was first. The stolen part happened first and then the selling. They are pitching it like the stolen part was last. Like there was no selling. White folks just came to Africa and stole you. That's how white folks and other guys say kidnapping. They're framing the language where there was no selling. There was no purchase. White folks just came and kidnapped you. White folks just came and stole you. This is the language they're using.
They're trafficking across the Atlantic. In conditions so cruel, 1 in 7 did not survive the journey.
Look. You see? Right on the white man. You were stole by the white man. You see, they started from stealing, not selling. Selling was last. You were stole by Africans and then sold by Africans. And now they want to sit here and say you were stolen and then trafficked, right? Then the conditions were so bad during the trafficking across the seas. So it's the white man, the white man, the white man.
And their enslavement in the Americas.
In the Americas. What about in Africa? None of these guys talk about the Africans selling us. None of them. None of them. They say we were kidnapped, stolen, and then they go right to America.
Generations were brutally exploited for their labor and denied their basic.
Hey man, we don't need none of y'all to talk for us, man. I'm gonna tell you right now, white T man, African booty scratcher guy, we don't need any one of y'all to speak for us, my guy. They should have invited us over there. They should have invited Tariq Nasheed, Yvette Carnell, Tone Talk, Dr. Sandy Darity. They should have invited one of us over there to say this. Right? No, you guys can't speak for us. We didn't authorize you guys. You're cosplaying. You look like you ain't worth a damn. The other guy look like he ain't worth a damn. We don't trust y'all. We don't want to work with you. We don't need your help. No.
Humanity. These monstrous acts were the core of a global economic and social order, a system born of greed, built on lies, and then
Now I'm gonna put this link in the chat. Y'all can watch this crazy shit. I'll play a little bit more, but I can't, like, I had this thing where I cannot tolerate too many lies.
Forced by violence. A system that prevailed for over 400 years and haunts our world even now. A system that reflected the worst of humanity. And that is why today is more than a time of remembrance. It's a moment to confront the lasting legacies of inequality and racism. We will never forget the victims of slavery. And we must never forget the malevolent system that sustained it for so long.
Now, they're not going to say Black Americans. They're going to say Africans.
I'm singing of the laws that deprived the enslaved people of literacy, autonomy, and humanity. The economic, financial, and trade networks that enabled elites and empires, including my own country, to amass wealth built on stolen lives and stolen labor. And the barbaric punishments that maintained control, from shackles and iron collars to flogging and sexual violence. This was not simply forced labor. It was a machinery of mass exploitation and deliberate dehumanization of men, women, and children. The wounds run deep and often go unrecognized. I've often said the transatlantic slave trade was a crime against humanity.
Oh, now it's a slave trade. It ain't a slave kidnap, huh?
Struck at the core of personhood, broke up families, and devastated communities. To justify the unjustifiable, slavery's proponents and beneficiaries constructed a racist ideology, turning prejudice into a pseudoscience. This perverse global order thrived because power acted without conscience, and we must use our power for better ends. By reflecting the false narrative of racial hierarchy and calling out the ugly lie of white supremacy. By dismantling its damaging falsehoods online, in the media, in schools, at work, in politics, and within ourselves.
Look how these tethers in the audience. Y'all ain't, like FBA Chosen said, this ain't going nowhere. Y'all could attend all you want. Y'all not getting a dime.
And by working for truth, justice, and repair. We recognize the extraordinary courage of the enslaved. We honor their determination to be free, their quiet resilience and their organized resistance, their uprisings and acts of open defiance, their unbreakable human spirit. Now we must remove the persistent barriers that prevent so many people of African descent from exercising their rights and realizing their potential. We must commit fully and without hesitation to human rights, equality, and the inherent worth of every person. That is why the Second International Decade for people of African descent and the African Union's decade of reparations are significant. Let us use them to drive action in 3 critical areas: eradicating systemic racism, ensuring reparatory justice, and accelerating inclusive development with equal access to education.
Yeah, this dude caused my computer to freeze, yeah. Hold on. More, man. All right, this caused my computer to freeze. I think I'm out of here. Yeah, this ain't even, yeah, my computer froze. Listen to this stupid shit. Yeah, I'm good. I'm good. Family, tomorrow. My computer froze. I'm trying to now watch some highlights. You dig? The hell with this. Hey, thank y'all. This was just disgusting, horrendous, heinous.